Well, for it just being a weekend, things were kind of wild. Sunday, we have Danielle Smith going down to Mar-a-Lago to have good, constructive conversations with Trump and the incoming administration. Lots to chat about, lots to get into. But first, Danielle Smith going down to meet with President Trump. Also joined by Kevin O'Leary and as well as Jordan Peterson. Danielle Smith doing what a prime minister should be doing and going down to actually have conversations with the incoming administration who is threatening tariffs on your country. And then as well on top of that, threatening to own your country. So good to see at least a leader going down to be proactive and have these conversations. And it makes sense for Danielle Smith because we know when Donald Trump was on the campaign trail, he made a whole big deal of oil when he brought on RFK Jr. He said, RFK is great. He's going to take care of our health. He's going to make America healthy again, but he's not going to touch the oil. Drill, baby, drill. And that was the focus. That was what he was doing. So when they're having these conversations, he has his eyes on Alberta. Naturally, it makes sense since we don't really have a prime minister right now who's willing to get up there and have a conversation. Danielle Smith has now got to advocate for her province and in the same way advocate for the country of Canada. She said this: over the last 24 hours, I had the opportunity to meet President Donald Trump at Mar-a-Lago last night at his golf club this morning. We had a friendly and constructive conversation during which I emphasized the mutual importance of the U.S., Canadian, and energy relationship, and specifically how hundreds of thousands of American jobs are supported by energy exports from Alberta. I was also able to have similar discussions with several key allies of the incoming administration and was encouraged to hear their support for a strong energy and security relationship with Canada. On behalf of Albertans, I'll continue to engage in constructive dialogue and diplomacy with the incoming administration and elected federal and state officials from both parties, and will do all I can to further Alberta's and Canada's interests. The United States and Canada are both proud and independent nations with one of the most important security alliances on Earth and the largest economic partnership in history. We need to preserve our independence while we grow this critical partnership for the benefit of Canadians and Americans for generations to come. What a statement. What a nice political statement in the face of all the stuff that we've been seeing in the news. It was good to see one of our leaders and one of our representatives go down and start having constructive conversations with the incoming administration down in the States. Suffice to say, the left was not happy about it. Liberals were not stoked. Mark Miller, immigration minister, had this to say about it. Despite attempts by Pierre Poilievre's friends, allies, and fellow Conservative Party members, Canada is not for sale and never will be. Vive le Canada. And posts the photos of Danielle Smith, Kevin O'Leary in a negative light, as if they did something wrong. I would say, let's take a Kevin O'Leary at it for a second. As if Danielle Smith did something wrong. And as they've tried their best to really pin and connect Danielle Smith to Pierre Poilievre, in their desperate attempt to link Pierre Poilievre to big money and Donald Trump, they'll keep posting things like this. Danielle Smith went down to talk to Donald Trump. Danielle Smith is a conservative, so therefore she's connected to Pierre Poilievre. Therefore, these are Pierre Poilievre's friends. And yes, Pierre Poilievre has voiced support for Danielle Smith because, well, she's a strong leader and knows what she's doing. Of course you're going to comment on that. But this is how liberals and the NDP are reacting. They are not stoked because all they want is to stoke fear and doubt within the Canadian people. Now they've been talking about having a strong united front, being Canadians and being strong. And all of a sudden they're big nationalists all of a sudden in the Liberal Party and the NDP. Huge. Love it. But just take a look. Just compare and contrast Danielle Smith's comments here to those of Jagmeet. He says, nothing to see here, Canada. Just Canadian conservatives celebrating with Donald Trump and billionaires days after they threatened to annex Canada. And just days before they launch a full-scale assault on the Canadian economy, jobs, and your family. This is how the left is trying to handle Donald Trump. They don't understand anything, clearly. They don't understand economics. They don't understand social issues. They don't understand even how our country works at times, it feels like. They just keep doing things that they think is going to play well with their base. They think is going to play well with Canadians. And they act and put on this whole show. And it's exhausting and quite frankly, offensive to watch. Canadian conservatives celebrating with Donald Trump? No. You said it yourself here, Jagmeet. We're facing down the barrel of 25% tariffs and rhetoric about annexing Canada. But none of you have taken it upon yourselves to go and talk to Donald Trump. Yes, I misspoke there. Liberals did go down. Trudeau has gone down to speak to him. Long has gone down twice, once with Trudeau, once on his own with a team. But we haven't seen anything productive come from those meetings. All we've seen is more bluster and frustration. So of course, if you are Danielle Smith and you have no idea what's going on with those meetings, you got to take care of your people. you got to take care of Alberta. So you're going to go down on your own and have those conversations. It only makes sense. Again, I love how she talked about and emphasized the point, saying, on behalf of Albertans, I'll continue to engage in constructive dialogue and diplomacy with the incoming administration. I'm not seeing any messaging like this coming from the Liberals or Jagmeet Singh. Nothing. Not seeing it from Doug Ford either. All they want to do is fight. There's no coming to a deal on this. They just want to fight. And this isn't helpful for Canadians. It's just political jockeying, and you're putting and playing with the lives of all of us. Jagmeet wanted to put that post into video form to let us know how strong and powerful and tough he is.
Trump, our country's not for sale. Not now, not ever. I lived across this country, and I can tell you, Canadians are a proud people. We're proud of our country, and we're ready to fight like hell to defend it. Right now, with the forest fires ravaging homes, Canadian firefighters showed up. That's who we are. We show up and support our neighbors. But if Donald Trump if you think you can pick a fight with us, there'll be a price to pay. I've committed that if Donald Trump imposes tariffs on us, we should respond with retaliatory tariffs in kind. I think that anyone running as prime minister should do the same.
All they want to do is fight. Regardless, is when you don't want to come to the table and have any sort of deal in your mind or any ways you can work around this, and you just want to be like, we're going to stick it to them. Well, quite frankly, y'all, you have shown that you guys are so soft. And Donald Trump is not a guy to be played with. You are soft, Jagmeet Singh. Trudeau is soft. Melanie Joly, soft. LeBlanc, soft. The only reasons why you can tell when someone's soft is when they act tough when the other person can't fight back. Like freezing their bank accounts or calling them names when they can't get back at you. That is how soft this administration is, the Liberals and the NDP. And to come in and act like, I'm a big bad boy, it's the biggest sign of weakness to me. It's exhausting. And it's really hard and annoying when you see Jagmeet Singh putting out rhetoric like this, especially when you find out that 1,000 people in his party signed a petition asking him to please step down. Your own party doesn't want you. You're going to put Canadians' lives at risk because you want to look a specific way? Okay, go off, I guess. And Right Blend posted this on X, saying, how do you feel about Alberta Premier Danielle Smith going down to Mar-a-Lago to meet with Trump? And quite frankly, my response to that is, well, somebody had to. Our current interim prime minister is going around talking on CNN about how bad right-wing influencers are, saying they're the reason why he's unpopular. They brainwash Canadians, doing his whole press tour, begging for mercy on CNN. And I understand the political strategy there to a degree, but the problem is your team are morons. The political strategy here that Trudeau is trying to deploy is, okay, we're not getting what we want out of Trump right now. We're not in a place to negotiate with him. So what if we go to their news networks and start talking about how much of a bully he is and talking about how unfair things are? Maybe, just maybe, the American people will see our bleeding heart and put pressure on the incoming government. Maybe. I believe that is a political strategy Trudeau is trying to deploy here. It backfired completely because he's been mocked and ridiculed on a variety of shows down in the States. But I have a feeling that's exactly what his team was thinking. We have no leg to stand on, so let's try to put pressure on him by going and talking to the media. Problem is, no one watches CNN in the States. Their numbers are so bad. It's laughable how awful they are. When shows like Tim Pool are just smoking CNN and MSNBC, those aren't the shows you want to go on. But I know it's tough, Trudeau. Those are the only shows that are going to be friendly to you to a degree. But that's what happened. So we have an interim prime minister crying on CNN. We have Melanie Joly, the foreign affairs minister here in Canada, also taking a similar stance to Jagmeet Singh, saying, we're just going to fight them.
And collectively, they said the hit to the economy, we're looking to the tunes of millions of jobs. You're looking at a 3% contraction and essentially an immediate recession. So it's in that vein, against that backdrop, I ask you about what retaliation would look like. Mm-hmm. Is your government prepared to cut off supplies of energy, for example, to the United States?
What I can tell you is everything is on the table. And that's the conversation we will have, the Prime Minister, Minister LeBlanc, and myself, with the premiers next week. And that's a conversation also I'll take to Republican senators and key Republican decision makers in Washington next week. Because this is indeed a decision that would be taken by President-elect Trump that would have devastating impacts on Canadians. And so for those who are watching us right now, it is important to understand that the threat is real and we're acting on it. And that's why I'm calling every political leader in this country to be on board, because this is not time for division. This is not time for weakness. This is time of strength and unity.
I guess I would just ask, though, if you are coming.
This is not time for weakness. It's time for strength and unity, which those are great words. But again, it goes down this vein where diplomacy, all of a sudden with this Liberal Party, is gone. Now is the time for diplomacy. I hate to say it. It really is. We are in a tough spot on this one. But again, you just want to look at ways to pick a fight. You haven't come to the table with a deal. You haven't come to the table with things of constructive ways to make this better and improve the situation. And Vashi responds back.
Because it's not just the Conservatives, it's all the opposition parties. And the issue is like they're becoming even more critical because they would argue, I think, the Prime Minister has put the country in this spot. By making the decisions he did when he did it, I'm not saying it's not your decision to make, obviously, but he is the leader of your party. By waiting until when he did, we're in a more vulnerable place where, no one is really sure of exactly what's going to happen or what your government is going to pursue. Can you impart a sense of confidence on Canadians that your government can navigate this despite the weakened position we find ourselves in?
Let's not fall into the narrative that Canadians were looking for this, that Canadians did anything wrong.
Don't fall into the narrative that Canadians did anything. No, that's not the narrative here, Joly. The narrative is your boss put us in the spot. You aided it. You helped it. That's the narrative. But see what she did there, trying to shift the blame and trying to shift the focus onto, no, this is an attack on Canadians. Trump is bullying Canadians. Let's not shift the narrative here, she says. And thank goodness, we love her for it. Vashi pushes back on that idea immediately.
That's a false narrative.
No, that's not the narrative. The narrative is the question is around the Prime Minister's decision and his timing. He had multiple opportunities to do what he did.
I've had many conversations with the Foreign Minister of Mexico, with the Foreign Minister of Denmark, with my colleagues in Europe. Trust me, nobody was completely looking forward to everything that President-elect Trump has said since he's been elected. And by the way, he never talked about it during the elections. We're reacting to his new rhetoric. Now, we've gone through Trump 1.0 administration. We've gone through tariffs because he has imposed in the past tariffs on steel and aluminum. We had a strong response at the time. We did a dollar for dollar retaliation package, and we were very specific, very surgical how we were reacting. That's what we'll do. But at the same time, 25% on the entire Canadian economy is extremely important.
We weren't expecting this. That wasn't the question, Joly. The question was, your boss put us in a spot where we could be subjected to something like this. But of course, you don't answer the question. You make it about trying to make yourself a victim. And that's the issue. The left just wants to fight because the left's lack of vision and understanding, they have put us in the spot, and they weren't expecting someone like Trump to take advantage of the spot that they've put us in. So now they're caught with their pants down, looking terrible on the international stage, and they're trying their best to minimize damage of them looking brutal in the process. So when it comes back to the Danielle Smith situation, the encouragement is for Canadians is at least someone is advocating for us in a constructive manner. Not someone's trying to burn everything down in the process. And a lot of questions being made, and specifically those on the left, is, well, at the same time, now we have, well, this is happening with Trump and we're staring down the situation with the states. Poilievre is snowmobiling in Quebec. How dare he? Quite frankly, it's called political strategy. You crazies are so bent on the fact of trying to connect him to Trump in any way, shape, or form you can. So the best thing Poilievre can do right now is stay away from the US at all costs. Stay in Canada until our election day comes. Because you know the minute Poilievre goes down there and does what Danielle Smith does, those photos, those videos are just pieces of content to fund and fuel the propaganda machine of the Liberal Party and the NDP. They're dying. They're hoping he goes for it. He can't afford to go. He can't afford to meet with Trump. I'm sure he'd love to. Sure, he'd love to advocate for Canada, but he can't because he's put in an impossible position that the minute he does, he's going to get cooked by the Canadian media and the Liberals and NDP. So best thing he can do right now, have fun in Quebec, show that he's a person, show that he enjoys doing things. Those are important. But that is what we can expect. That's what we have. Donald Trump going to be taking office in 8 days. So we'll see how we react. We'll see what's on the table. Have yourselves a good one. I'm out.